The United States said on Friday it would add 33 Chinese firms and institutions to an economic blacklist for helping Beijing spy on its minority Uyghur population or because of ties to weapons of mass destruction and China's military. The U.S. Commerce Department's move marked the Trump administration's latest efforts to crack down on companies whose goods may support Chinese military activities and to punish Beijing for its treatment of Muslim minorities. It came as Communist Party rulers in Beijing on Friday unveiled details of a plan to impose national security laws on Hong Kong. 7 companies and 2 institutions were listed for being complicit in human rights violations and abuses committed in China's campaign of repression, mass arbitrary detention, forced labor and high-technology surveillance against Uyghurs and others, the Commerce Department said in a statement. 2 dozen other companies, government institutions and commercial organizations were added for supporting procurement of items for use by the Chinese military, the department said in another statement. The blacklisted companies focus on artificial intelligence and facial recognition, markets that U.S. chip companies such as Nvidia Corp and Intel Corp have been heavily investing in. Among the companies named is NetPosa, one of China's most famous AI companies, whose facial recognition subsidiary is linked to the surveillance of Muslims. Q360, a major cybersecurity firm taken private and delisted from the Nasdaq in 2015, recently made headlines for claiming it had found evidence that CIA hacking tools were used to target the Chinese aviation sector. The Commerce Department said it was adding the firms and institutions to its entity list, which restricts sales of U.S. goods shipped to them and some more limited items made abroad with U.S. content or technology. Companies can apply for licenses to make the sales, but they must overcome a presumption of denial. The Reserve Bank of India today cut the repo rate by 40 basis points from 4.4% to 4%, reducing the reverse repo rate at 3.35% to maintain accommodative stance. The RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, while addressing the media, said that the 6-member Monetary Policy Committee voted 5-1 in favor of 40 bps per second cut in interest rate. The RBI Governor said, measures announced today can be divided into 4 categories: to improve functioning of markets, to support exports and imports, to ease financial stress by giving relief on debt servicing and better access to working capital, and to ease financial constraints faced by state governments. Speaking about impact of COVID-19, Mr. Das said, the GDP growth in 2020-21 goes in negative territory. The headline inflation may remain firm in first half of year, ease in the second half, falling below 4% in Q3/Q4 of financial year 2021. Granting relief to people. The RBI extended moratorium on loan repayments by 3 more months in view of COVID-19 starting from 1st of June to 31st of August, 2020. The RBI has announced to extend 15,000 crore rupee line of credit to Exim Bank. It has relaxed rules governing withdrawal from Consolidated Sinking Fund, CSF, while at the same time, ensuring depletion of fund balance is done prudently. It will enable states to meet about 45% of redemption of their market borrowings which are due in 2020-21. The RBI Governor said private consumption has seen biggest blow due to COVID-19 outbreak, following investment demand has halted big time, impacting the government revenue severely due to slowdown in economic activity. The inflation outlook is highly uncertain, with elevated level of inflation impulses being worrisome and therefore requires review of import duties. The group exposure limit of banks is being increased from 25 to 30% of eligible capital base for enabling the corporates to meet their funding requirements from banks. The increased limit will be applicable up to 30th of June, 2021. Union Health Minister Dr. Harsh Vardhan today took over as the chairman of the World Health Organization, WHO, Executive Board. Addressing the board through teleconference, Dr. Harsh Vardhan said that he is entering this office at a time of global crisis on account of this pandemic. He mentioned that there will be many health challenges in the next 2 decades and urged a shared response from countries. Highlighting India's efforts in tackling COVID-19, he said the country faced COVID-19 in a proactive and preemptive way, with unmatched skill and determination. The World Bank on Wednesday named former Bear Stearns executive Carmen Reinhart as its chief economist, tapping a financial crisis expert who also currently serves on advisory boards of the IMF and the New York Federal Reserve. World Bank President David Malpass said in a statement Reinhart's experience and insights would prove invaluable as the coronavirus pandemic heaps economic pain on developing countries. She starts at the bank on June 15. Reinhart, a professor at Harvard University, published a book entitled This Time is Different, 8 Centuries of Financial Folly, together with economist Kenneth Rogoff of Harvard University in 2009. The book called for stricter regulations and an early warning system to sound the alarm about financial bubbles, arguing that central bankers, policymakers and investors tended to ignore the telltale signs of a bubble. Reinhart has a PhD from Columbia University and teaches international economics at the Harvard Kennedy School. She has also worked at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the International Monetary Fund and the University of Maryland and the former Bear Stearns Investment Bank. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva tweeted her congratulations, calling Reinhart a great choice, especially at this time of crisis. IMF chief economist Geeta Gopinath, in a separate tweet, added, Carmen Reinhart is an extraordinary economist with deep expertise in crises, debt, capital flows, from a current and historical perspective. She's obviously well suited to the moment, said Scott Morris, a former U.S. Treasury official who is now a senior fellow with the Center for Global Development. The bank could be entering uncharted territory in the months ahead, so it's good to have her intellectual firepower on board. Reinhart's expertise include international capital flows, and sovereign debt crises, the bank said. She replaces Penelope Goldberg, who left on March 1 after only 15 months on the job. Railways to operationalize 2,600 more Shrimek special trains in next 10 days across the country. This initiative is expected to benefit 36 lakh stranded passengers. Addressing media in a press briefing in New Delhi, Railway Board Chairman, V.K. Yadav, informed that over 45 lakh people have returned to their native places since 1 May, through the Shrimek special trains. Railways started running Shrimek special trains to move migrant workers, pilgrims, tourists, students and other persons stranded at different places due to lockdown. Shrimek special trains are being run from point to point on the request of both the concerned state governments. The railways and state governments have appointed senior officials as nodal officers for coordination and smooth operation of these Shrimek specials. Yadav also informed that the railways will further make arrangements for more of such trains as and when requests are received from the state and district authorities. Tamil Nadu has allowed beauty parlors and salons to reopen across the state from tomorrow. This comes days after it allowed only salons for men in rural areas to reopen as part of relaxation of restrictions during Lockdown 4. These businesses, however, will not be allowed to reopen in Chennai and other containment zones. However, no air conditioning is allowed in these shops, which can be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The state government said salons and beauty parlors must ensure everyone wears masks, social distancing is maintained and their premises are disinfected at least 5 times a day. No worker or customer who shows symptoms of COVID-19 should be allowed inside. Also, no resident living in containment zones will be allowed to work in the salons. Chief Minister Edappadi Palaniswamy in a statement earlier this week had said he had given orders for reopening salons for men in rural areas after sympathetically considering demands from barbers. Tamil Nadu has the second highest number of cases of coronavirus in India. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has sought the intervention of PM Modi to revive some of the key projects as Sri Lanka strives to restore the economy in wake of COVID crisis. In a telephonic conversation with PM Modi today, the Sri Lankan president called upon Indian side to expedite construction of the east terminal of the Colombo port as early as possible, as it will be a significant boost to its economic landscape. Rajapaksa said he is trying to promote value-added industrial and agricultural activities and will be happy to encourage Indian investors to start such investments, including Indian companies already in Sri Lanka, to increase domestic value addition. The Sri Lankan president also requested Government of India to provide $1.1 billion special swap facility to top up $400 million under SARC facility, as it would enormously help Sri Lanka in dealing with the foreign exchange issues. PM Modi assured that he is personally committed to help Sri Lanka and is ready to help under terms that are favorable to Sri Lanka. The two leaders agreed to continue with the ongoing bilateral projects that brings direct benefits to people and prioritize food and health securities. In the face of the COVID-19 crisis, they agreed to further strengthen all aspects of the bilateral relations, and President Rajapaksa thanked India for support, including 10 tons of medical supplies. As part of Vande Bharat mission, INS Joshua will sail from Colombo port in Sri Lanka carrying around 700 Indian nationals to Tuticorin on June 1. This will be the first voyage of Navy ship from Sri Lanka, as part of its Samudra Seta mission. Earlier, 3 ships had evacuated around 1,500 people from neighboring Maldives. Indian High Commission in Colombo has requested for support of Sri Lankan authorities in carrying out the evacuation exercise. An Air India flight to Mumbai is scheduled for next Friday, while more flights are being planned for evacuation. The High Commission said priority will be given to compelling cases in distress, including migrant workers who have been laid off, medical emergency, students and those suffering personal losses. There are around 1,200 Indian nationals registered with Indian High Commission for evacuation due to COVID crisis and have been waiting for returning back home. Around 100 of them are tourists who came for holiday for few days but got stuck due to stopping of international flights. Indian nationals constitute the maximum number of tourists to the neighboring country.